Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. It made sense today, since my first video was discussing the transition from the rifle to pistol, that we would just roll into malfunctions. Let me go back to the first video for a moment. This is the first time I'm ever doing recording, and I must say, when that camera comes on, I'm like a mule looking at a new gate. I'm pretty sure the American Indians were onto something when they thought taking your photo would steal your soul. That's how I feel. So bear with me, I'm gonna try to get better at this. So in the first video, I failed to mention how I was identifying bolt lock. All right, and that's important. Identifying what's going on is just as important as fixing it. I identified bolt lock not by looking. I identified because I could feel the bolt lock to the rear. And you can feel it locked to the rear because the recoil impulse is not the same. It's not the same because when it locks to the rear, you do not have the inertia of the bolt going back forward, chambering around, and locking into the barrel extension. So that's how I was identifying. I wanted to clear up if there was any confusion, and I apologize. Okay, so today we're going to get into malfunctions, which are also stoppages. The important thing about stoppages is us as a shooter is listening to the gun and understanding what it's telling us. That's the reason I believe it's important when you train these drills that you set them up, because having that stimulus to tell us what's going on is very important. If I just go through the motions, what am I really hardwiring there? You know, so we got to set the drill up to give us the stoppage so we can identify stoppage, and then we'll give it the immediate action. Talking about malfunctions, I classify them in two different types, and that's soft and hard. An example of a soft malfunction would be a failure to fire. Some examples of a failure to fire would be just not seating your magazine, not chambering another round, or bad ammunition, up into including maybe parts breakage in the gun. An example of a hard malfunction would be like a double feed or a bolt over. And the difference in the two, the reason it's called soft and hard, is the difficulty and time of correcting the problem or the immediate action to fix it. So going back to the soft malfunction, the best way I believe to set that up is to have dummy rounds. You can just stagger in your magazine, so there's no way for you to be able to game that. I did not bring any dummy rounds, okay, apologize, but there is another method to do this. All you simply have to do is just unseat your mag, chamber around, unseat your mag. It's going to fire one round, and then you're going to get a click, right? The click is the stimulus that we're looking for the immediate action. The immediate action to that is simply going to be, as soon as I get the click, that tells me that the gun is in battery. That's a lot of useful information right there. I get the click, I'm just going to tap, tug, rack on the magazine, rack the action, reassess, reacquire, shoot if need be. For the purpose of the drill, we most definitely will be shooting again. Going to a hard malfunction. There's a few more steps to it. Simply put, it's basically you're unloading the gun and just loading it again, but there's a little more to it than that. How do we identify what stimulus are we looking for on a hard malfunction? Well, when you get a double feed, it actually does feel a little different, but depending on the situation, you may not feel that. It may be just when you pull the trigger, you do not get the desired effect of a shot. That's when we're going to have to go into the identifying process. All right, what does it tell us? I said earlier, when we get a click, that tells us that the gun is in battery. All right, useful information. If we have a dead trigger, that tells us that the gun is out of battery. Also very useful information for us to start to process at what actual stoppage we have and what immediate action we're going to need to apply to it. So out of battery means that the bolt is not locked, right? So you just get a dead trigger. That could be bolt lock, it could be a double feed, or it could be a bolt over. So now we're going to have to go into the process. We've got that data. We've got a dead trigger, so we know we have an out of battery situation. If we have lighting conditions that are favorable, I'm simply just going to roll the gun, look into the chamber, and see what I've got going on. And if you see a bunch of brass there, well, you know you have a double feed. Okay. If you're in dark, all right, the thing is, I'm going to show you a method that will work in any condition. But it makes sense to me to use what we have. So if we have lighting, if I can look and see, that's definitely going to speed up the process to clearing the problem. All right. Let me grab my gun, and then I'll do some demos on how we're going to set it up and how we're going to shoot them. I'll be right back. I did not get my ears. All right, got my ear pro. I apologize about that. Now let's get into the soft malfunction. Okay, how we're going to set that up. Take a mag, load, and I'm simply going to unseat the mag. Something I need to tell you, if you have a fully loaded mag, using this method is probably going to fall out on you, so download your mag to accommodate the drill. That's the reason it's best to have a dummy round on hand, right? It's best for a couple of reasons. Number one, you get to seat your mag. Number two, it's a little harder to game it. So unseat the mag. I'm going to present. I'm going to get click, tap, tug, rack. Okay, simply to set it up again, I just need to unseat my magazine. One more time. Present, click, tap, tug, rack. All right, pretty self-explanatory there. If you notice something I'd like to go ahead and talk about right now before we get into the hard malfunction. I injured my arm and hand a few years ago. It's limited my mobility and my strength, so I had to do things a little differently sometimes. So I'll explain it like the most optimal way, and then of course I'll do it the way that I've learned to work around to make it work for me. Okay, setting up a double feed, there's a couple of different ways we're going to do this. The first way, take a loaded mag into the mag well, leaving the bolt locked to the rear. Take a live round, tabletop your gun, ejection port up, paralleled with earth. Drop the round into the ejection port, send the bolt forward. It's obvious that we have a double feed there. Going through, I'm going to present, attempt to fire, I'm going to have a dead trigger. I'm going to roll. Since I have lighting conditions, it's favorable for me to be able to see into the ejection port. It's obvious I see double feed. From there, I'm going to lock the bolt to the rear. I'm locking the bolt to the rear to take the pressure off of the mag because we have 2 rounds trying to come out of the mag, so it will lock your mag in place. I'm going to remove the magazine. From here, I saw rounds fall out, but I'm not sure if my ejection port and receiver is clear. So I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to run it in the front of the mag well all the way up into the upper receiver. The reason I'm doing that, if those rounds, sometimes they will get wedged into the barrel extension, and you will have to use your finger to hit them to defeat the angle and make them fall out. The reason I'm going to the front of the mag well, because if you go to the rear, you're liable to set your bolt forward, and chambering your round, chambering your finger into the barrel extension does not feel good. So remember, front of the mag well, all the way up into the receiver. If you feel the rounds, hit them until you defeat the angle. They come out. Now I'm going to send the bolt forward. I'm sending the bolt forward because I do not know for sure if my chamber is clear. So I'm giving my extractor a chance to clean whatever's out in my chamber so I can feed a fresh round in there so I do not cause another double feed. And I'm going to go mag back on the gun, chamber. Let's set that up again. Mag out of the gun. Lock to the rear. Mag back on the gun. Round into the ejection port. Bolt forward. All right, we'll go through it one more time. Present, dead trigger. Roll, look, I see double feed. Lock the bolt to the rear, charging handle forward. Always push your charging handle forward if it will go forward. Leaving it to the rear, it's easy to bend that piece of aluminum, and if it bends, your weapon's down hard. Mag out of the gun. Even though I saw them rounds fall out, it does not take long for me to run my thumb up in there just to confirm, right? This is going to work if I cannot look into the ejection port. This is going to be the way I confirm that it's clear. Again, bolt forward, mag back on the gun, rack. All right. Now let's talk if you do not have favorable lighting conditions where you can see into your ejection port. It's at night or what have you, whatever it may be. You can still go through the same method of locking the bolt to the rear, but instead of looking, you're simply just going to run your fingers up the front of the mag well, up into the receiver to make sure it's clear, because we cannot look in there to see, right? How I know that's just, it's going to take, in that time, it's going to take a little longer to identify the problem. That's just all there is to it. If I can't see, I can't see. But this method will clear it regardless of what the situation is, okay? All right, another way I can show you to set this up, which will be good. That right there is a good method to set up just to get the process down. There's a way you can take a piece of brass, load it into your magazine backwards, and you can put it down there a couple of rounds deep or what have you, and it will actually induce a double feed as you're shooting. So then you get to the report of the different recoil impulse plus the dead end trigger, plus the dead trigger to identify what's going on with the gun. So I'm going to set this up. I'm just simply going to take a piece of brass. I'm going to load it into the mag backwards. Take another couple rounds, load on top of it. Demonstrate this real quick. I'm going to present and shoot until I get stoppage. Right there, I have dead trigger. The recoil impulse was different. I'm going to roll, look, I see double feed. Lock the bolt to the rear, charging handle forward, mag out of the gun, thumb all the way up into the receiver, it's clear. Bolt forward, mag back on the gun, rack. So work with both of those ways in your training to set up the double feed. The important part here is the identifying part. We must be able to identify before we use the immediate action, because so how do we know what to use if we don't know what's going on? The final malfunction I would like to discuss is known or called a bolt over. Although it is extremely rare, it does happen, and when it happens, you need to know how to identify it and how to clear it, because you can pull on the charging handle until Jehovah returns. It's not going to fix the problem. All right. What happens is, to explain a bolt over, is a round actually gets on top of the bolt carrier underneath the charging handle. Okay, so to set this up, I'm simply just going to roll the gun upside down with the bolt locked to the rear. I'm going to drop a round down in there on the charging handle, and I'm going to send the bolt forward. All right. There's a few different methods on how to clear this. After I get it set up, I will demonstrate, because the bolt will be in position for me to show you. Okay. All right, if you look, you see the bolt's about halfway in the ejection port, and you see a round on top of the bolt carrier underneath the charging handle. All right, ideally how we want to clear this, the reason why pulling on the charging handle won't clear it, if you notice, it welds them together. So what we have to do is move those two independently to feed that angle to get that round to come out of there. A way of doing it is taking like a Leatherman or the edge of a GI aluminum mag and sticking it on the edge of the bolt carrier and moving it independently of the charging handle. Or the method I like to use is toolless. We just use the tools God gave us, use our digits. How I'm going to clear this, I'm going to run my index finger and put it on the face of the bolt. I'm going to pull it back, and I'm going to hold the bolt back with my finger, and I'm going to shove the charging handle forward. If you notice, that allows the round to fall out, and then I'm going to immediately snatch my finger out of the way. If you try to feed your finger into that barrel extension, I promise you it will not be a good day. So something else you can do, if you do not want to just yank your hand out of there, is actually while you have it pushed back, you can then just lock it to the rear. That is up to you. I am just giving you some information on the method on how to clear that bolt over. Like I say, that method will work the majority of the time. I have seen these malfunctions in there so deep to where you actually have to collapse your stock and mortar the gun on the earth, which basically, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to tear my gun up, because there is a chance you will tear it up. But if you have to, I will explain it so you do have the information. If you do have to mortar it, you need to collapse your stock all the way in. When you hit the earth with it, you want to hit it in line with the lower receiver extension. You do not want to hit on the toe of the stock, because it will most definitely break your lower receiver extension off of your lower receiver. We didn't touch on this earlier, but also mortaring can be handy if you have a stuck case in the chamber. If you try to, pull on your charging handle and it's locked forward because you have a stuck case, you can then collapse your stock. You can mortar it on your leg, and if that doesn't work, you can actually unsling, go down to the earth, and use the earth to mortar it off of. But that's all it is. I'm hitting my leg, I'm also pulling on the charging handle, and that will get your stuck case out of your chamber. All right, folks. I'm trying to think if I have anything else I wanted to go over today. I do believe I have touched on all the malfunctions. Again, if I've missed something, I will make another video to correct it. It's a lot of information. If you have any questions, please reach out to me in the comment section. Something else. After we learn to identify and to clear malfunctions, this is not something I work on and every time I go train at the range. Work on it to a point to where you're very familiar with it, where you build the pathways to where you can identify, you have the immediate action to clear, and then you don't need to, every range session, you don't need to be working on malfunctions. Matter of fact, we need to be focusing on how not to have malfunctions. That's the best malfunction, is the one we do not have. A few ways that we can guarantee, or not guarantee, but limit malfunctions is: number one, take care of our gear, right? Clean our guns, maintain them, check for wear, replace parts that are worn, etc. Number two, use good magazines. Number three, use good quality ammunition. And if you do those three things, you're going to limit malfunctions altogether. Now in training, I'll use any kind of mag in training as long as it'll feed. But if it mattered, I'm going to use a set of mags that I know is in good shape, right? I'm not going to take some old beat up mags out of my range bag that's been going to the range and have thousands of rounds shot through them. I'm going to take good quality mags that I have verified they drop free, and I've verified that they work. So how I do it is, if I have a few different set of mags. I have what I call my training mags. They're all beat up. As long as they'll drop free, they're a training mag. And then I have my competition mags. I use mags when I go shoot a competition. And then I have my carry mags. So I have them broke down in 3 different groups. All right, folks. I believe that's all I have today. Again, thank you for your time. You have a wonderful day.